Hey, Shaka.
All right, how you doing this evening?
Ooh, making it. We are having some technical difficulties. 5 minutes before the show started, I couldn't get my laptop to work out just fine.
Oh yeah, I saw it, but it's okay though.
Yep. All is well. Hold on. So tonight we are talking about solitary confinement. Whew.
Okay.
So what really made me think of this topic is this video that was sent to me and shared with me on Facebook. It was a gentleman that overdosed on fentanyl, and he was stooped over the rail for 3 hours before the guards came back. And I was thinking about, between solitary confinement and PTSD, the level of stress that happens to people who are incarcerated. So today I had an interview with a woman from an organization, from a company, for me to be able to go into the jails as an advocate. And when we were talking, she was talking about how before she went in, she was already a licensed drug and substance abuse counselor, and she worked around mental health and therapy. And there were, I think she said there were like 90 women and there were 1,500 men in the adjacent prison, or 900 women maybe and 1,500 men. No, it was like 90 something. Anyways, they had one therapist for all of them, and she was part-time. And so the level of trauma that happens when you're incarcerated, especially when you're on solitary confinement, for me, it was unreal. Like, I really couldn't tell the trauma until I would go to share my story, especially on Zoom, and I'd have to look myself in the eye, and I'd see my pupils dilated, unable to stay focused, moving all around, and it just let me know how much trauma there was there.
Well, solitary confinement actually, it's they have it designed not as a form of punishment too, but also to permanently implant levels of in not just insomnia, not sleep deprivation, as well as acute mental health. In other words, it's designed to just drive you up the wall and make you submit and be subjected to any forms of lesser punishment. Well, all punishment is punishment, but when you're in solitary confinement, it's a total different. That's a total different world within itself, where everyone is isolated. Uh, some of those tiers are rat infested. Um, there's no constant flushing of sewage. Some don't have toilets. Some don't even have mattresses.
Excuse me.
And so, and a lot of these institutions, everything is based. Sometimes solitary confinement is based on a point system where you have to earn your toilet paper back. You have to earn your mattress back. You have to, sheet by sheet to the blanket to the mattress, based on how much you can compress your insanity and your anger, which is considered to them being in good standings while you in solitary confinement. So, um, I've had a long experience of being on solitary confinement, so I know, the horrors that that existed. They try to implement to someone that they consider that hasn't been broken, that
Yeah.
hasn't been in full compliance with slavery, modern day slavery rules and regulations on the slave ship, which is on dry land or plantation, if you want to call it as such. So those things, if you don't have the mental capacity to endure those particular horrors. I've seen people, you know, uh, you know, um, literally just crack,
Yeah.
and become permanent guinea pigs on institutional medication, hangings. People began to just sit and lay in their own waste and just totally give up uh, in certain situations. Now, some solitary confinements are much more uh, livable than some. Some are viciously deplorable, and this is the hidden jail and the hidden prison within the prison. And
Definitely. Definitely.
this is like, I mean, you're actually uh, standing shoulder to shoulder with death in terms of your mental status, in terms of uh, not being having the luxury of eating, the usual slop and the poisonous and outdated and rotten food, where it becomes the point where people look forward to eating maggots ridden oatmeals once they're back in general population. That becomes a delicacy, and that's a sign of being broken. So, and then within the general population, they always look at somebody to just come out of the hole, so to speak, to see how they have, endured it and what their mental status is. And so, nobody wants to be considered or being labeled as being broken among the men by just being placed in solitary confinement. So that insanity has to be suppressed
Yeah.
along whatever took place while you were in solitary confinement. So um, it's horrible, but I always look at it as if the Creator had designed for me to go through that, to be an example for others and a deterrent for others who may even be having this particular foul uh, non-moral conduct in those institutions. That this is what they need to expect, when they consider or call themselves going hard or going for bad, or or just being a follower instead of being your own leader. Because once you're in there, there's no assistance whatsoever. And people have died from pneumonia. Uh, there's no immediate contact of family members in terms of someone being deceased or someone just losing their mind or things of that nature. Because extreme paranoia kicks in too, because
It
your
does.
trust level. Um, I've known guys that that wouldn't even drink juice anymore because their psych, the medication that they were on and how they have completely gone off the beam. Uh, they saw everything as being an attempt to take their life. Just regular juice or just food that their tray is separate from everybody else's tray in the dining room, even though they visibly saw all the trays being made, but they look at theirs as different, as though they were going to be poisoned. That it was snot in their juice and all this type of stuff, and I've seen a lot of people get hurt behind it. That extreme paranoia. So um, that's something that has to be dealt with. And this is why I always state that you know, when one has done a significant amount of time in prison, that a psych evaluation as well as substance abuse treatment as part of the transitional um, reentry back into society needs to be implemented, because a lot of people be advocating for individuals that are confined that may have been wrongfully convicted or whatever the case may be, when you have people on the outside fighting for you, but your behavior and conduct on the inside doesn't reflect the person that the people on the outside are fighting for. So
I get it, because when I was incarcerated for nearly 2 years, for about a year, I was in a cell by myself. And I wasn't in solitary confinement, but they left me in a cell by myself. They closed the hatch. They wouldn't bring me food. They wouldn't bring me water. They wouldn't bring me juice. They wouldn't bring me anything to eat. They take my mat. They take my clothes. After I delivered in November. I didn't get transported to a mental health hospital until June. They didn't bring me any medication. They didn't give me any hot showers. But I remember this hallucination, because my diagnosis is bipolar 2 with psychosis. And I remember a hallucination of literally, I could feel the dirt hitting my lips. It felt like I was being buried alive. And I remember the first meal that they brought me was some pasta with some meatballs, but it was yellow. I was like, who the fuck pissed in this pasta? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I was being paranoid at the time or if someone really did piss in the pasta. Because the reality is that's the kind of stuff they do. Or they ask, or they the inmates, some of the inmates will try to break you when they're on detail to deliver things to you. So that was one of my paranoias. But tonight I'm gonna play this video. Give me a second to find the video, if you don't mind continuing talking, Shaka. I'm gonna find this video of a guy that overdosed on fentanyl, and the person who recorded the video. I'm gonna tell y'all what happened to him in a moment.
okay. Um, Nevertheless, once again, it's important that our brothers and sisters as well, upon entering society, it should basically be mandatory, especially if you have those on the outside that are fighting and advocating, for your release, to have a particular a psychiatric evaluation, and if there's a history of drug abuse or alcoholism, to uh, have some sort of short-term program to address those ills that could have possibly or more than likely have led to being incarcerated, because we have a tendency of just looking at an individual based on how long they've been in and the physical specimen in terms of working out and appearing to be physically healthy, and your dialogue has and might improved, and you appear to have some sort of spiritual foundation developed, that those things are desperately needed, and the recidivism rate wouldn't even be as high as it is to this day if those particular programs and that type of structure was implemented, in the community within our brothers and sisters that are behind enemy lines, to prevent returning to prison. So, people develop a certain mindset and a certain way of life and certain behaviors. Some are not conducive to one's growth and development. Some are demoralizing and drug use, men sleeping with men, and all of that type of stuff, and which a lot of times people on the outside may be fighting for people that appear when they're on these shows and these podcasts, and appear to be like they're on point and they're totally grounded. But it's important to see what type of behavior and conduct that they've been engaged in, throughout the duration of their incarceration. So, to prevent, to bring down the recidivism rate, that needs to be implemented. So in other words, if a person claims to have found God and so grounded, and it shouldn't be no problem for you to, once you're released, to continue and further your rehabilitation in terms of psych eval and the substance abuse program, which you don't necessarily have to have been, drag out, strung out addict, because those drug programs, a good drug program deals with psychotherapy and intense individual and group counseling sessions where you're around a lot of like-minded people who are unshamingly open to discuss what has plagued them for so long, or over the years, or over a period of time, which has led to their incarceration. So I'm trying to properly lay this and put this in layman's terms, because I don't want to go into any grim details of the horrors of prison, which a lot of Black men who may be watching this show, as well as some of the sisters that have already, endured this, endured that type of environment. So once again, I use this as a deterrent to those who are out here and that are under the influence of drugs and alcohol, that has become the guiding factor in their decision making, which would lead to being a part of the mass incarceration and wanting to be accepted. Because when you do that out there, you're definitely going to do it inside, and so part of that rites of passage inside is being a gopher to be accepted, by other golfers and other non-thinking, empty-headed individuals who have an asshole full of time, and they would love to have company throughout the entire stay. And so, a lot of, especially our young, they get caught up in that it doesn't kick in till they intake, till they have to have their cell phones taken, their belts, no longer wearing Jordans anymore. You in those cheap, two-strap tennis shoes that have been worn by about 50,000 other people, used underwear that's just been rewashed with stains in them. Those jumpsuits, a 2-inch mattress, ice cold, because they set these temperatures low in these holding cells for a reason, to get you so cold that you'll be glad to get on a unit where it's heated. And so that's the psycho therapy that they use on you, so you can be in a rush to get processed to get into jail. And, these type of games that our young people especially don't have not been informed of thoroughly. And, after 5 or 6 years go by, when they realize, after they see, hundreds of other people go home, and they realize that they're not going nowhere for the next 25 or 30 years at the least, then reality really starts to sit in, you know. And as we were talking about solitary confinement, even the general population, the horrors that take place in there, the disfigurement of people, the constant lockdown, the hunger strikes, the wars in the yard, learning how to desensitize yourself from seeing people stabbed in front of you, and having, even though you may have had a conversation with them, you just have to step over them while they're losing their life and, bleeding out on the floor. Because if you make any attempts to assist them, you're next on the list. So, that type of insanity that takes place needs to, just being released, and, having your boo pick you up, and then you go home and, sex it up and all this type of stuff. And then you have all these promises. But then when you have to deal with what goes on out here, and the frustration kicks in, all of that insanity and that rage and that anger kicks up to a point where some people will do something deliberately to go back to their comfort zone. So that's why I'm putting emphasis on these psych evals. We've already been traumatized from generations of post-traumatic slave syndrome. And then this mass incarceration, this unemployment, this chronic substance abuse, this mass homelessness, the mental health crisis, which I think the mental health crisis is the explosion of the combination of those things I previously named. When you can't find a job, and you're drinking, and you're getting high every day, you're living off somebody else, you're living with somebody else, you're living from pillar to post. You don't have ID, you don't have a resume. Those type of things can cause the eruption of all that mental health. And so people take it to the streets, so
Everything you saying, Shaka. Everything. I was trying to show the video fuller. I haven't someone engineering. I don't know if y'all can show that video that I posted. I can't share from this iPad. So can anyone hit that video?
not me. I was trying to get you to I couldn't pull up the link on my iPad. or my phone, so I'm using my laptop this evening.
Okay. I'm gonna text you this link. Can you see? Can you do a share screen?
I'll try. Let's see.
Messengered you.
Let me see.
So the person that shot this video was immediately taken to solitary confinement. Most of the people in the prison thought that he had left. Problem is, he was there on a DUI with 2 years. He was in county jail, county prison, doing work detail and things like that. He had a tumor in his back, so they moved him to Ware State Prison, where he actually was supposed to have gone to Augusta to a medical hospital, but they took him to a state prison where they changed his tier to be able to impact him staying there. So when this happened, he recorded it. They put him in solitary confinement and they added on 3 charges. So someone who was doing 2 years is now looking at 7 years. All because he recorded a video that went viral, protecting his mental health, protecting everyone else's mind. And so, can you show it, Shaka? Can you share screen?
I tried to do it. Let me try again.
Let me see. I can't see who's engineering. Let me see.
Excuse me.
No worries, Shaka.
Do I go to StreamYard?
To where?
Okay, let me see. So,
Screen share.
okay. Uh, no, I have to work on that. I had to learn how to do that because I've never done it. So,
No worries. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone and do what you did the other week and just hold it up to the phone's camera.
oh, yeah, okay. Let me see. Is it on? What is it on?
Facebook. Hold on.
Okay, let's see. On your page.
No, I sent it to you in Messenger. I'm about to do it.
Okay, let me see.
Okay,
I
let's
still
see.
haven't got
Can you see it?
one.
Yeah.
As you can see, it is a.m. The officers came down here at 5:30 to bring the trays, and still haven't came back. Nobody is still out there. No officer have came back in this building. We have an inmate here that is dead. been hanging right here for the past 2 hours, at least 2.5 hours, dead. Dead. It's crazy. This is crazy. It's my dead. Dead. See? Dead.
Now, if you don't think that that causes some level of PTSD and trauma, then I don't know which planet you on.
Yeah.
And then they put him in solitary confinement because he released a video. Like, when do you get an opportunity to protect your own sanity when you're behind bars?
That's that.
And they've talked about transporting him to another prison. They've trumped up his charges, changed his tier. So now he's looking at much more time than he ever was before.
Because really what they want to do is for him to rat on how he got the cell phones and how he got the dope. And by him not doing that, turning any correctional officials in, which he shouldn't do, because they put their job on the line to commit that or do whatever they needed to do, because most of those correctional officers are hustling because they're underpaid, they're overworked.
Yeah, because they're making $10 to $13 an hour.
Yeah, yep. I mean, people in Burger King make more money, yep. And correctional officers, the ones that get along with the inmates are considered the enemy among their own staff, and so they're usually the first ones that they terminate or they set them up, because they have a human relationship, with the brothers and sisters on the units. And that's just a way of survival. Now, you have those who, they look like you and I who treat, Black people like animals, on those units. And so, they're looked at as heroes. They're looked at as, employees of the year because, they've, choked several people out throughout the year, broken a couple of arms, dislocated a couple of shoulders, and some of them even, have murdered other, murdered inmates, and they receive awards, they receive bonuses. But those who have, good rapport, with the brothers and sisters, and do the right thing and treat people as if they're just people who have made mistakes, some more grave than others. Once again, they're looked at among their fellow co-workers as enemies, and collaborating, having relationships with their inmates, and they make up all types of shit, to turn those particular correctional officers against, the inmates. And the bottom line to that is those ones that have a disdain for inmates usually are punks that are, jealous and weak, and they couldn't imagine themselves being in that particular type of environment day in and day out and survive. And so it's a jealousy, envious type of mentality that it turns into rage and hatred towards the inmates. But they wanted him to rat, and they're going to make him pay. They're going to make him suffer. The unit will probably be locked down for a period of time. Each unit has one or two informants on there, to give a blow by blow rundown for, you know, a cigarette or
Yep.
a slice of
Today,
pie or tuna fish sandwich. They'll tell every fucking thing, you know.
yep. Today they had one of the worst DOJ raids that they've ever had at Ware State Prison. The DOJ was just there last month. Then this video surfaced about 2 weeks after the DOJ left. So when they
Mm.
re-interviewed me, when the feds re-interviewed me, they wanted to know where I was getting these videos from, since I had different angles of it.
Well, that's their job to find out. You know, you're getting six figures to do that type of shit. You know, and try your best to do your job because you won't get shit from me, nothing. Matter of fact, y'all asses are being taped as we speak because that's another thing we have that habit of being so submissive to these uh, oppressive mentalities disguised as law enforcement officers. They're not upholding the law. They're just suppressing those and condemning those to ensure that no one rises above their situation and condition. That's not just in prison. That's period. That's on all levels: economically, physically, mentally, emotionally, and the whole nine. But I want to. Where's Dr. McCorby at? Is he in Gaffney?
Mm, he's in Columbia. He's
Oh,
called me a
okay.
couple of times. You want me to call him and send him a link? Have,
Yeah.
in fact, go ahead, keep talking. I'm gonna see if I can get them to talk.
Okay. Let me just try to iterate and discuss what um, and that takes me back to the horrific scene of that brother laying across the top tier like that, deceased, and um, hopefully uh, there'll be some type of that brother can. I don't think he was deceased. Well, if he OD'd, hopefully he can get the type of help that he needs. He can come around and begin to uh, see once the smoke is cleared, to see exactly what he needs to do for self-improvement, because once again, that's a clear example of how, people are advocating for individuals that, conducting and having that particular type of behavior in the institutions. And once again, that's why I always say that, you know, drug counseling, not jailhouse drug counseling, you know, uh, drug counseling once released as part of a transitional, uh, highly structured program to re-enter society, as well as psychiatric evaluations, um, is so imperative at this time for, you know, all of our brothers and sisters that are being released that have served a substantial amount of time, and think sometimes that they are okay when they're actually not. Give me a second. Yeah, okay, you still there?
Okay.
I'm still here, Shaka.
Okay. That sound like I just heard the doc.
Yep, he's about to log on.
Oh, okay, great. And for those who, may be logging on, or those who may be in society that may have court dates or trials coming up, or sentencing dates that may be coming up, that have histories, and you have a long history of substance abuse or mental health, you should already plan and set up some type of program upon release to be able to um, have those services available for you. Because a lot of times I know that when someone serves a substantial amount of time, that they're so anxious to get back out into society and just think that, just um, plugging back in is that simple, and which it is not, because uh, to actually go to prison, you have to have had some type of whether major or minor history of arrest, or been given uh, a chance or two or several chances before actually being sentenced to prison, unless it's a capital offense. So, you know,
Is that in every state or just across the board?
well, in Maryland, DC, you know, Maryland more so, they'll give you several chances before they actually lay you down with a big sentence. And most of the time, just a setup. They'll make you think that, and they know that you have maybe substance abuse problem, alcohol problem, homelessness, unemployment, or just being lazy, and you are of the criminal element, that, no matter uh, what happens, you're still going to continue to engage in that particular behavior. So a lot of times they'll set people up or put them on paper, put them on probation, and even some cases, allow them to violate their probation and send them back out. But then once they catch, another case, then all bets are off. And then now it's time to go to prison. And this is where the trickery comes in, where they scare them into taking the plea deal instead of going to trial. And they'll tell them it's based on their prior arrests and prior criminal history, and which that's just a small part of the PSI. Nevertheless, and they take those deals, and most of the time the deals are above the guidelines. So they want to ensure that that individual is off the street and becomes a product and a slave in the prison system. More than likely, if you want to get out, you have to, go to school, or get a GED, and, have some type of, perform some type of slave labor through the duration of your incarceration. So it's all systematically designed for our destruction one way or another. This is, once again, I cannot put enough emphasis on um, getting getting mental health counseling, as well as substance abuse counseling, prior to being placed right back into society, and being in a transitional house, instead of just going from a prison cell to someone's home, you know, which is not the most healthiest thing to do. And so, even though our loved ones, we want our loved ones home, and, based on how they look in the visiting room and how they're talking, they found God and they have this spiritual grounding, but they never have those issues, those internal issues and demons that plague them, that they're trying to use religion or what have you to smother and suppress those behaviors and thought processes, will surface at some point once you're in a society and things don't go according to what you have planned for so long while you were incarcerated.
So I don't know where McCorby is, and
You want me
hold
to
on,
call him?
there he is. Oh, it's Michelle. Why did he have Michelle join? Hold on. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, I don't need to join if you didn't want me to.
You can join if you want to talk about solitary confinement.
I don't know anything about that right now, just from others.
I
What you
know.
know about others?
They've been abused and taken advantage of.
How?
Just by emotional traumas, being taken advantage of by the security guards and things such as that.
Okay, do you know anyone personally, or do you have family members or anything that have endured that type of abuse?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay, now, but you know of people that have endured that particular abuse, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so in your own opinion, what is the one or the solution or remedies that you may recommend to those who may have endured all the things which you have discussed in terms of the people that you know of that have endured that particular level of abuse?
Join
Hold
a
on.
coalition.
Michelle, real quick. Hold your camera down a little bit because always there you go. There you go.
I'm not really sure, sir. That's a good question. I'm not sure of the answer to that, but actually joining coalitions and working with other people.
Okay.
Hold on
Well,
1 second.
oh yes.
Michelle is an amazing virtual assistant. She's
Okay.
out of Texas, but she knows a little bit about everything, and she's amazing at what she does.
Yeah, she appears to be on point.
But on this, Shaka, we can end this show a little bit early tonight. What do you think?
I don't know. You have to ask your eyelids.
Eyelids closing, but I can work. I can work with it. This is 3 hours of sleep and a glass of wine. Looks like
right. Exactly.
3 hours
But
of sleep last night.
once again, I'll just say for that if you know anybody that has endured that particular level of abuse, being in solitary, I spent months without lights and no toilet and had a cast, both ankles ripped, torn ligaments, and spent months, counting mice and rats and being bit and and things of that nature. So once again, it's mental health therapy, substance abuse therapy should be, mandatory upon release, even before once a person makes parole. And I'm not talking about institutional therapy. I'm talking about once they are released, that they go directly into a substance abuse program where there is a high intensity individual psychotherapy to detox the mind from that particular way of living and that particular mentality, because a lot of our millions and the female population is at an epidemic level now, where these sisters are not getting the help that they need. And then, if you notice the crimes that they are committing now, are extremely heinous, you know, and so it's just not a man thing. It's you know it's with the men and the women. So um,
Yeah, we've
if
gone
you
up 700 to 800% in the last 10 to 15 years as far as women, brown and black women incarcerated, and they torture us in there. They shut off our toilets. They don't give us sanitary napkins. They don't give us showers. They might pull your mattress. So you imagine being on your cycle, sitting in a dirty cell with that hasn't been cleaned but once or twice in about a year after
yeah
giving birth, and that's what the conditions are. They'll leave you. They'll shut your toilet off. I remember being so dehydrated, I had to use my maxi pad box to get water because they wouldn't
hmm
bring me a cup to have water from.
yeah we used to, you know used to they used to have
Or
you know
or they bring
sometimes
you
you
those
have to,
plasticware, that plastic that they wash and it's bit up, and you don't know how many mouths have been on it. It's not properly cleaned.
yeah and the women in DC have actually had to reuse their sanitary napkins and you know the horrific conditions of uh, the women that go through pure hell over in DC jail because DC doesn't have a prison. It only has a jail that's pretty much is dilapidated on the inside. Um, they've had several deaths this year. Um, they got a COVID lockdown as we speak. Um, and it's the conditions are horrific. I don't even want to go into those conditions, but nevertheless, that was one of the reasons why I became a licensed substance abuse counselor and created a program because it, you know, I had to go through those particular voluntarily go through that, you know, because I didn't want to go through it because I didn't, you know, being under mental health during the time that, you know, I was released, you were considered crazy, so um, as time went by, as the mental health situation has reached epidemic levels that, it's uh, it's more of the normal now to get that type of counseling and that type of therapy. So, um,
Yeah,
because when I first went in, when I first came home, they were saying, what do they had asked one of the counselors, is he mental health? The guy was like, yeah. I was like, man, I ain't crazy. Ain't nothing wrong with me.
my mental
But
health was much worse than it's ever
yeah,
been. I take much more medication. I gained 60 pounds in 6 months. Like, I smoke cigarettes, whereas I usually only smoke cigarettes when I'm in a psychosis state. Um, Probably drink more, considering I was in NA for 5 years and I hadn't had a drink. Um, like all of my vices are up. It's like my children are my reason to live. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have my children as my reason to live. Like, I'm not saying I'd off myself, but I probably wouldn't be doing anything with myself either. Like, I think halfway house living and being confined, like I really do see how people give up. It's so easy because this system is not designed for you. And if you don't fall into a network, like I was so hesitant about falling into networks around mass incarceration and just trying to do it by myself, and trying to do it by myself wasn't working, because the reality is when you get out, you have a record. And even my dead docketed charges, there's some places where I can't pass a background check. Although I passed like 3 or 4 background checks. But those dead docketed charges, since they're violent felonies that are pending, that pending is enough for people to say, we're not going to hire you. You're
well,
implicated, which is discrimination. And I've had organizations say, we're not going to hire you because you have these pending charges. We working on
well,
that. They gonna get
yeah,
theirs, but So it's 56 after. Go ahead, Shaka, take us out or share us out, and I'm gonna get ready to load up the outro.
Okay. Well, first of all, I've known men that have only gone through half of what you've gone through, and they're not here now. They actually did take themselves out. So, you're used as a vessel and as a beacon of hope for somebody right now who is having those type of contemplations, whether they're incarcerated or whether they're on the street.
Right.
Someone's having the exact, I mean, to the nth degree of what you're dealing with, and I'm not gonna say dealing with, what you part of your journey, because you're going through it, and you'll still be here, just keep continue to do what you're doing. Just be the best you. You have a lot to give to the world. You have a lot to give to the world as an example. And it may not seem like that at times. If the journey may seem alone or not even worth it at times, based on how we are so overlooked and underappreciated by the masses of the people, that are under the hypnosis of so many other vices. But nevertheless, when you look at, you have human beings that solely depend on you not letting go of the rope, for their existence, so they can become parents, and they, children can see what their parents are going through, and it just helps them as well, because they're helping you.
And I'm real with my kids. I am. That's if my kids don't have anything else, they know who I am. They know who they are, and they have choice. Like, I support them being self-expressed. If they don't like something I do, and I support them telling me, like, this healing journey ain't always pretty. Everyone thinks when you heal, you're supposed to levitate. Say, "Oh, I heal. I'm levitating now," and that ain't how it look. You got to go deep in the and pull yourself out and pull out all that toxicity. So I'm just grateful, and thank you, Shaka, for joining me tonight. And on that, we out. You heard it. Pop up, pop up, pop up. Oh wait. Outro to pop up like that.